Let's get on with the details of those stories now. It's been described as one of the most decorous State of the Nation addresses in our recent history, as President Akufo-Addo delivered his third State of the Nation address to Parliament today. No heckling, no placards, and the address was well delivered. Well, we'll come to how we achieved that shortly. But one thing that's thrilled many Ghanaians and given President Akufo-Addo's massive goodwill this afternoon is his pledge to deal with party militias, popularly referred to as vigilante groups. Of course, that phrase is all over now.
Mr. Speaker, 3 months ago, a member of this Honorable House and the representative of Ayawaso West constituency, West Wogan constituency, died suddenly, throwing all of us into mourning. On 31st January, 3 weeks ago exactly, a by-election was called to elect a replacement for the late Emmanuel Chiramatin Ejako. May his soul rest in perfect peace. During the course of that morning, some events took place in that constituency which led to an uproar in the country. My first instinct was to let the police do their investigations and then prosecute if they found evidence of criminality. The narration that this was another incident of, quote, normal by-election violence, unquote, to expand my response. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, in our tenancy in Amenthi West had been marked with violence, and some people still have their physical and emotional scars to show for it. I could have sat it out, as some did for Akwatia, Etiwa, Chereponi, Talensi, and Amenthi West. But I decided that that would not be in the interest of Ghanaian democracy. The time has come to put an end to the phenomenon of politically related violence. The only way in our system to begin to deal with such a situation is through the work of a commission of inquiry. Thankfully, I got 4 responsible Ghanaians of independent spirit who agreed to serve on the commission. I hope the findings and recommendations of the Emile Short Commission will enable us chart a path to ending politically related violence in our country. The events of last Monday in Kumasi, where a meeting of the national and regional executives of the opposition National Democratic Congress was broken up by acts of violence, leading to the tragic death of a citizen, have reinforced the urgent need for us to find that path. I want to use the platform of this message to make a sincere, passionate appeal to the leaders of the 2 main political parties in our country, NPP and NDC, to come together as soon as possible, preferably next week, to agree on appropriate measures to bring an end to this worrying and unacceptable phenomenon of vigilantism in our body politic. Mr. Speaker, I have asked the leadership of the NPP to extend an invitation to the leadership of the NDC for such a meeting. The security services of the country will be on standby to assist this meeting. If voluntary disbandment by the parties is not feasible, then I will initiate legislation in the matter. Vigorous debate, and the exchange of ideas should be the true basis of political dialogue and competition in our country, not the activities of party vigilante groups. Mr. Speaker, What was tolerated over the years cannot and must not be accepted anymore. We must not take our peace and security for granted, not for a moment. Our children and grandchildren will not forgive us if we were to compromise our peace and stability. I will not permit that to happen under my watch. Our forebears paid too high a price with their blood and toil to bequeath to us this beautiful nation, and the lives of our citizens are too precious to waste. So, Mr. Speaker, let us come together, shoulder to shoulder, hand in hand, and let us all be guided by the inspirational words of the second stanza of our national anthem. Hail to thy name, O Ghana. To thee we make our solemn bow. Stand fast, steadfast to build together a nation strong in unity. With our gifts of mind and strength of arm, whether night or day, in the midst of storm, in every need, whatever the call may be, to serve thee, Ghana, now and forevermore. Mr. Speaker, we have our challenges, but our nation is in good health. I thank you for your attention. May God bless our nation.
That's President Akufo-Addo there a couple of hours ago, actually, in Parliament. It is the boldest step yet to dealing with the menace of party militias and their war laws, especially coming from the President. The NDC has already declared their desire to denounce any militia group linked to them. Listen to Chairman Samuel Ofo-Swampofo.
When we talk about vigilance, it's about people who have taken the law into their own hands and say that we are turning law and order upside down. And then you see, so we are not looking at vigilantism from any positive direction. I also want to us to hasten slowly.
In what?
By going and describing people as party militia and all those things. I think that
party militias.
I think that what armed. I think that, you know,
how would you describe
for instance,
would you describe the guys at Ayawaso
for instance, all the groups that congregated in front of the NDC office, if they were armed, the narrative would have been different.
That's true.
Listen, the narrative, somebody armed himself, move into their midst, shot at them, and then run away. And you are saying that these are people who are armed.
Yeah, but those
if they were armed, really, they would not have been there for somebody to use pistols to come and kill people.
You disagree with the description party militias?
Well, I think that we should hasten slowly because I don't think that we have gotten to that point.
We do not. We no longer want to make it an attractive proposition.
Well, whatever it is, it's not an attraction.
Your reaction to party militias.
You see, whatever it is,
dangerous.
Whatever it is, I as an individual, I want to say that I will never encourage vigilantism or
militias or whatever you call it.
You see, Professor Kofi Awonor, may he so rest in peace, never knew that an internal insurgency in Nairobi, Kenya, will be where he will meet his untimely death. What happened in Kumasi could have happened to any of us. If that person who came with a premeditated, act to come and kill, it could have been me. It could have been anybody.
Yeah.
So we need to collectively stand up against this, development, which for me is not good for the body politics of this country.
So that's the NDC's chairman, Samuel Ofo-Swampofo, yesterday speaking to Evans Mensah. So we want you to bring in your thought, but then we're looking at what has been done previously. Previous efforts to end this have proved futile as declarations by former IGP John Kudalow failed to yield much result. Now listen to IGP David Asante-Apietu speaking at a news conference last week.
When we talk about political vigilantism, the police administration, from our first Ghanaian police chief, Mr. E.R.T. Majite, through one of our most respected Inspectors General of Police, Mr. Peter Namfuri, during President Jerry Rawlings' regime, to myself, have all struggled to curb it. We want to appeal to all political parties to immediately denounce their own vigilante groups, to create the necessary awareness that will embolden the police. Furthermore, if any political party intends to create new vigilante groups, we appeal for a reversal of such intention. This battle is national in character, and we need all hands on deck. The police are poised to arrest and profile any group of people claiming to be vigilante groups, irrespective of their political affiliation. We are declaring zero tolerance against political violence and vigilantism. Vigilante groups are illegal. The police will do our bit and advise all to desist from using the police as a soft target in pouring blame.
That's IGP David Asante appeared to earlier last week, speaking about this menace. Well, guess who spoke about it as well today after the president made that bold statement? Ambrose Derry. He's the Minister for the Interior. Hear him on this. All right, we'll bring you Ambrose Derry shortly, but we also know that the political parties, of course, starting with the NDC, they've decided, they've denounced the Hawks. We'll tell you a bit more about it, but let's hear from you. What do you think? How can these parties bring to fruition what the president has said today in Parliament? The WhatsApp number is 050-564-6330. That's 050-564-6330. That's how you can tell us your thoughts about how the parties, the political parties, can make what the president said today come to fruition. Well, the IGP, as you heard, was speaking a week ago after the violence at Ayawaso, West Wuogon. Then after that declaration, we understand another militia action took place. This time it was the Hawks of the NDC. You do know already at this time that one person died. So how will the new call by the president work? We'll be talking to the expert, we'll talk to security analysts, and then we'll try and get the political parties as well to respond. Let me take you to our Facebook page right now to get some of your reaction to this statement. Well, Joshua Kofi Sogli says, on the paragraph concerning political vigilantism in SONA 2019, I believe the president has been honest and candid on the matter. The president has won my respect in this regard. He has spoken as a true patriot. I also like the part where he emphatically stated that if disbandment has proved futile in this matter, the president, will initiate legislation on the matter. I pray to God Almighty that the president will get the fundamentals right with other aspects of the economy. For instance, the inflation and the performance of the Ghana cedi against the major trading currencies. Today, I observed that the parliament was less intimidating, calm and decorous to the president. Every parliamentarian comported themselves as compared to the SONA of 2018. I hope and pray that he lives up to expectation and walk the talk. Thank you, Danado Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the president of our country. Well done. That's a very long one there, but thanks, we've read it. Akbaribo Philip Apiga says, preach peace in public and go behind to do worse things. So basically, you do not believe, or you do not believe that the president will be able to bring his words into fruition. Godfred says the NPP vigilantes are now with national security, and you want NDC to own up its vigilantes? I don't think so. Edinkwa, as Sam says, best statement I've ever heard in Ghana. Nana, God bless you. And Kujo says, if they fail in agreeing to eliminating the party militias, Mr. President, decree an instrument by constitutional powers. That is all. Ghana is for us, not for NDC or NPP. Shadrach Mensah Hamon says, for the first time in many years, Parliament has given value to how much we pay them for this month. This is what we want. Discipline. So basically your comments are not just about the party militia, it's also about the general overview of what happened in Parliament today. Ayakwa Samo says, that is what every Ghanaian was expecting from the president. I will admonish my party leaders to adhere to the call of the president and make us all proud. After all, the essence of politics is to have the opportunity to better the lives of the citizens, and peace is paramount in bettering the lives of Ghanaians. Please, Your Excellency John Mahama and the leaders of my party, the NDC, kindly be active agents in resolving this albatross on our neck. You say hashtag proud to be Ghanaian, hashtag Sona19. So you're basically calling on your leadership or your party leadership to listen to what the president has said and meet with the NPP. Kwabena Kese says, close to 2 hours of talking and the president never said anything about the high price of contraceptives, especially militia contraceptives, okay, which now sells us 10 cedis and 35 cedis at most. Are we serious as a nation, Kwabena? Well, that's your view. You shared it with the rest of the world. Lakus is getting to us from Accra. Lakus says, I'm just praying to God to raise a very strong force to push these two useless parties, the NDC and the NPP, out of this country. We don't need violence, we need development. So these are some of your thoughts. Keep them coming. As I indicated, the WhatsApp line is 050-564-6330. What do you think? How can the two parties, the NPP and the NDC, meet according to the president's directive to his party to meet with the NDC to get this done? Let's hear from Minister for the Interior, Ambrose Derry.
The message, as far as we're concerned, about vigilantes, we stated right from the word go that these were illegal activities and that we must bring that to an end. You recall that I've had occasion to say that any commander, police commander, who did not arrest vigilante suspects would be sanctioned. I had to go as far as that. So what the president has done is only restating the position that he has held. Look here. Talking about by-elections, we had a number of them. I was deputy minority leader when the by-election took place in Cheponi. We were there, and there were these incidents of shooting. A lady was shot in the head, went to the theater. Professor Frimpong Boateng had to leave us to go and do all that. Again, I was back in my private practice when we had Tolency, and there was violence again. There was shooting incident. If you recall, the then minister of Interior said, violence begets violence. That was what I said at the time. So here we are dealing with a clear and consistent policy and position that these illegal acts of vigilantes must stop. I am encouraged by the fact that in recent days, there appears to be considerable consensus. All the political actors, you hear from the NDC, you hear from the NPP, that they are responding to a call. So what the president has done today is actually setting out an implementation process.
Ambrose Derry is Minister for the Interior. I'm going to take a very quick break because when I return, we're organizing to have the conversation going. Send your thoughts in. Let's hear what you think about how the NPP and the NDC can come together to get this done. Remember, the hashtag is Disband Party Militia Now. Disband Party Militia Now. That's the hashtag. Follow the conversation and let's hear from you. President Akufo-Addo has spoken today. His words back this campaign, and we'll be talking to Kwesi Enin, who is a security analyst. I also have Dr. H.S. Ikanku, who will look at the president's statement from a communication perspective, a political communication perspective as well. So do stay with us. I'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to the show. We're going to start the conversation right now. I have on the telephone line with me Joshua Akamba. Joshua Akamba is national organizer for the NDC. Mr. Akamba, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Good afternoon and good afternoon to yourself.
I also have via Skype Adam Bona. Adam Bona is a security analyst joining us. He is CEO of Security Warehouse. Mr. Bona, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much and good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon. And in the studio with me is Dr. H.S. Sikanku. He's a communications specialist. He's author of the Afrocentric Obama Lessons on Political Campaigning. He'll help us take the conversation, a bit more into the general overview of the president's speech or the president's State of the Nation address. So, gentlemen, you're all welcome to the conversation. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Akamba, on the line now to find out from you what are your thoughts about the president's statements today about disbanding political party militia groups.
I'm sure that I will say that I'm quite disappointed in the president. You asked me the reason why. I'm surprised that for the first time he goes on a State of the Nation address and then make a assertion that he's inviting all the political parties, NDC and NPP, to sit down and look at how to disband it. Madam, you would agree with me, currently, the president and his vigilante group, that he actually has claimed ownership before. If you listen to him in 2012.
Who has claimed ownership?
Oh, he's actually the president.
He's claimed ownership for what?
He said that they have a militant group and that he was going to release those militant groups. And then you have heard it. I don't
recall where the president saying that.
Yes, it
where and at what time? Can you give us that detail?
That was around 2012 when he had a press conference and said that it was a militant group.
Do you think, Mr. Kamba, that it is healthy to begin to bring back those conversations into the forward-looking society that Ghanaians seem to have got into?
I'm sure if you are listening to me, then you get to where I'm going to. Because he has made a claim that we should disband. We have not even ever claimed to belong to or to own any vigilante group. We have never done that. He has done that. He and his
but Mr. Kamba, I think that it's time that we get frank really with this issue and try to get to the bottom of solving it. Now, if you say that you have not said you taken any ownership of political party militia groups or vigilante groups, we know groups that are affiliated to the NDC. You can't dispute that, can you?
In fact, have we ever heard any national officer or any flag bearer of our party claiming ownership? No.
Yesterday, your national chairman has denounced the Hawks, a group that is financed by one of yours, Joseph Yamin, who is former deputy sports minister.
I'm unaware of that. I'm unaware that Joseph Yamin is funding.
He said it himself.
I'm unaware. You are telling me. That's what I'm saying, that at the highest level. And then the point I'm trying to make is that His Excellency the President would agree with me that currently his Minister of State at the National Security has also claimed ownership of this group that actually visited mayhem to our people. These are people that...
No, we need to, Mr. Kamba, we need to be factual about this conversation. If you say he has claimed ownership of a group, that group we know works with the national security, and he is Minister of State in charge of national security. So let's be clear.
We have just come out with pictures showing those gentlemen and who they are and how they claim to be part of the national security. We have come out with pictures. I'm sure you saw them. That these are the people, and we have seen them working around with some officials of the NPP. And these are the people they claim they are national security officials. And I'm saying that we are in a dangerous situation now. We find ourselves helpless because the president and his party are keeping these people and actually within the security setup. And so you say, go disband. And then they are giving weapons. You see how the president wants to make us useless? So we'll see how it's going to unfold. But I can tell you that if the president wanted us to really solve this problem, then the media by which he invited or called other political parties to come and let's dialogue about them, was not proper. And I can say that I'm not sure the president actually mean it, because the president, I have called the president several times that he should disassociate himself from this group.
Mr.
When they were moving
Kamba,
around, and then they were training them with the South Africans, that they were giving them VVIP.
Mr. Kamba, do you acknowledge that these groups are becoming a nuisance to this country? Do you acknowledge that these groups are becoming a dangerous set of grouping in this country to you and I and to our families?
In fact, it becomes very dangerous when actually they have actually found their way in the security setup. That's even more dangerous. I just want to let's be very frank with this, Mr. Kamba. We're seeing macho men that were seen around without arms. Now it's more dangerous when they actually be made to be part of the security setup and they are holding weapons.
Are you ready? Are you ready to sit at the table with NPP people to discuss the way forward about disbanding these groups, these militia groups who may turn out someday to their own warlords and eat them up?
In fact, I'm ready for anything that is positive. I'm ready for anything that will bring peace to this country. But the fact is that trust is the issue. That these people are already found in the NPP. These people are already there. They are already been given assignments. They are with the National Security Council. Some of them have joined the police and all that. That's even more scary, isn't it?
Let me bring you into this conversation, Mr. Adam Bona. One of the key things that people have said is we as a country need to adopt a frank position, a frank and a very sincere disposition to this conversation if we want to make any progress at all. Otherwise, we'll just be tickling ourselves and laughing. We've had the president today, Mr. Bona, and we've had the NDC chairman yesterday denounce a group like the Hawks, which we know is affiliated to the NDC. Now, the president is calling for these two political parties to come together to look at a way forward. How do you think the two parties can actually come together to get this done?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to my brother Joseph Akamba. I am a bit surprised. He said he didn't know the NDC has, chaps among them or vigilante groups among them. I think if you go on your network, myjoyonline.com, Sofo Azoka, before the Ayawaso by-elections, made statements that suggested or confirming that he has a group and is not ready to denounce them or disband them. You can Google, it's there. I think recently when the IGP made a statement, Sofo Azoka came out again to say he was not ready to disband. And who is Sofo Azoka? My checks indicate I think he's an NDC executive.
He's a former, he was the national, the Northern Regional chairman.
I think he's the first vice chairman, or if they have something like that. He's one of their. He's currently an executive member of the NDC, and you know Joseph Yamin outdoored the Hawks in Kumasi when he bitterly lost the elections in that particular polls in Kumasi when they had their regional elections. And I was very glad he lost. I was glad he lost because then it meant that largely the NDC, let me restrict that to Kumasi, did not support any act of vandalism and thuggery. Even though I was happy he lost, I still knew there were going to be troubles, and I had spoke openly about them, that once you have someone who looks like a warlord, call him Yamin, who has formed a vigilante group called the Hawks, and is lost a contest in their regional elections, chances are that there might not be peace in the region. And you see, as if I probably was speaking to him to disband, recently there were trouble before the young man was shot, where his group had been worrying, probably giving a lot of trouble to the regional chairman to do his work. And so the national executives went to Kumasi to dialogue. And it was out of that that somebody innocently lost his life. And so for me, where I sit, if you ask me, what I am going to say is that there has to be that sincere dialogue amongst them. The issues my brother Joseph Akamba has raised are real. These are real issues that there are people who have infiltrated the national security setup. As for the police, I am not too concerned because they still have their own rigorous way of checking and making sure things work. But for national security, some of us don't know how these people are recruited, what they do. And so you can see, they call it the interaction with the commission, the Emil Short's commission, where there are a lot of gaps. And so for me, the president's call for the disbandment of, the vigilante force within the political parties, it is at the right time, but how it is going to be implemented is where I worry, because from where I sit, I can tell you that that issue about they should sit and dialogue, it's never going to be possible because, like you heard from my brother Joseph Akamba, there are issues with regards to some, NPP executives accepting and saying that there is no way they are going to disband. But moving forward, there has to be that sincere acknowledgement that, you see, there is a problem. If people have infiltrated the ranks of national security, they should be, thrown out of national security. The political parties, if they are failing to sit at the round table and dialogue, the president, he's the one we voted for. We didn't vote for any of his ministers. He's the one we voted for. We didn't vote for the people at national security. He's the one we voted for. And so he has the executive. He could actually use any of the instruments available to him to get probably a law that bans this. But my point is that how that is going to be implemented is where I have a problem, because then are we going to, is the country going to put in a monitoring team that would make sure that, you see, this whole thing is going to be done in a manner that would not let the minority feel that they've been left out in the cold? And how would the majority, who feels that some time ago probably we were, call it beaten, or we were beaten, and therefore it is our time that we have to also do something. This attacks and reprisal attack within our political circles will not help us. And so for me, I will call on my brother Akamba to let's look at it and say something has to give, because then by and large, there is no way NPP is going to stay in power forever. It's not possible. At least from 1992, we haven't had any party that will say I stayed in power for more than 2 terms. And so it's not possible. So one day, Joseph Akamba and his party will definitely come back to power. And when they come, this whole conversation, if we don't support the president and get this thing out of our body politic, we are going to go back again, have whoever wins their primaries and one day becomes president or something, come to the state of the nation, come to address the nation and tell us that I'm going to formulate a law. And so, Gifty, I think that it's a big problem. People are panicking, and so the president has spoken. We expect the leadership of the NDC and the NPP to look at it. But you see, there is one point probably I would have wished the president raised. In all this, if you check the names that have been paraded around, those who have been killed or those whose names have been published, they are coming from the Muslim, largely Zongo communities. And so, is there a problem we are not looking at? Is there a roots problem we are not looking at? I would have wished that in all this, when the 2 political parties are being called, the office of the chief imam probably is involved. Are we going to have the imams, maybe if there is a imams something, association or network, they probably are brought together, the chief, somebody, speaks to them, let them know that in their Friday prayers and meeting their communities, they should let the young people who mostly are used to be wary of politicians who come when they need them to use them. They use them and they dump them. Look at this young man who's lost his life. Listen to the parents, listen to the sisters. And so for me, there is a bigger conversation. And that bigger conversation, the two political parties seems to be using a particular constituent. And that is largely from the Zongos. And until we are able to include that constituent in this whole dialogue, in this whole formulation of the law, we probably might be going anywhere.
Okay, so that's a very interesting part you raised there. So that's a different part of the conversation which we should have. Mr. Kamba, you're still there. I'd like for you to respond to these observations.
Yes.
Respond to these observations that
my other brother on the line there. What's
his name is Adam Bona. He's a security analyst.
Uncle, yes, Adam Bona. Yes, Mr. Bona. You see, the problem is that the president himself cannot be trusted in respect of the utterances that he's making in respect of disbandment of our vigilante group. The very first time that he was elected as the president, we saw the mayhem that was committed to ordinary Ghana. Even ASP Nankabrus, non-DSP Nankabrus, the way he was manhandled and beaten at the Flagstaff House. Where did that case end to? At the seat of government. Then his own security, you saw it in Kumasi, the police were standing helpless. These vigilante guys moved into the security coordinator's office, dragged him out and beat him.
Mr. Kamba.
All that the police could do was... So, that is the president actually committed a doubt. That's my doubt and fear.
So, Mr. Kamba, granted, Mr. Bona has just indicated that there is a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of the feeling for vengeance. So, that, granted, that's granted. But the point now, Mr. Kamba, and you admit is that in every discussion you want to look at the way forward. How do we make that move? Now he is raising concerns that this meeting or this sitting at the table by these two political parties, including yours, may not be feasible. What is it that you want?
Mr. Bona did make a point that I'm happy about.
Let me land with a question, Mr. Kamba. That what do you want to see to make you sit at the table as a party with the other political parties?
Where I'm coming to. I think Mr. Bona made a point, and it's clear. He says that he agrees with me that most of the young men are currently with the National Security Setup. There's a gentleman that was seen in this school called Double. Currently, as we speak, he's at the DCIT lounge. We have seen him standing behind a senior officer of the NPP, and he's actually a confidant of the senior officer. So these people are still even within the security setup. We have identified them, we have taken their pictures, we have shown their pictures. The president could have only built up that trust after this, if these people were apprehended and put before the law court.
Don't you think that this is an avenue? This call for you to sit down is an avenue for you to raise all of these concerns and have them addressed.
We have raised them, and the people have come, even their own senior officers have come and said, listen, it will get nowhere. We have raised them, we have met them, and they have said it will come nowhere.
Mr. Kamba, one of the things...
You and I will agree with me also that you have heard the police actually denying these people that they don't know them. Meanwhile, you would also agree with me that these were the same people that were seen in police vehicles being protected by
one of the things that have come up
by a senior police officer giving directions for them to shoot.
Mr. Kamba, so one of the things that have come up at this commission sitting, and one of the problems that one of the problems that the commission is seeking to address is this issue of militia groups in political parties. One thing that has come out of this conversation is that having these people in the state security apparatus is really not new. It is something that has been done by government, subsequent government, including your own.
Are you serious about this?
I mean, this has come up this has come up as part of the conversations going on at the commission. What the question I wanted to put to you, Mr. Kamba, is whether or not you don't believe that sitting down with the NPP will help you address all of these issues so that we can deal with the bigger problem of the menace of party militia.
We really don't believe that the NPP is serious about it. It's been cosmetic. They are doing it because they've been pushed to the wall. and they don't really mean it. That's what we believe. We believe that the NPP is not serious about it. They actually want to tie our hands at the back, and they will go in to visit mayhem on us on election 2020. That's what I believe. I actually don't believe that the NPP really mean business, and they mean that they really want us to disband this group. I'm sure that they are only looking for a way to tie our hands at our back.
What do you want to see happen?
They will show us where power lies.
What do you want to see happen?
We want to see those gentlemen that we've reported to the ITP being apprehended, put before bars, and being tried. Then we can be sure that the NPP really means business. Then we'll sit down and look at the way forward.
So you want that to happen before you can agree to any sort of say that?
I haven't met my superiors.
Exactly the point I was going to.
Can't take a decision. But what I'm saying is that, from my observation, I think that it's a 419 approach. They really don't mean business. If they mean business, we have demonstrated, we have shown, we are taking petitions to them. We have taken petitions to ITP. By now, those people should have been apprehended by now. Videos were shown by your own outfit that the people were seen clearly assaulting and beating and shooting. And the police claim they don't know them. So what are they still roaming around and doing?
Okay, so you want that to happen first. Already you have indicated that you are not. This is not a party position yet, because yesterday we did hear the party position from your chairman. He says that they're denouncing this, and we'll be getting to him. He really sounded like he wanted a solution to this problem as well, and I'm sure that he would love to sit down. We don't know when the NDC is coming out with an official statement, but let me bring in Dr. H.S. Ikanko into this conversation before we wrap up with him, Mr. Kamba. You've written a book about political campaigning, looking at the Obama example. Let's bring that back home. You are not just an author who looks at political communication. You're also a citizen of this country, and so you should be concerned about these political party militia groups and the effects that they have on our body politics and indeed on our own existence. What do you make of the conversation so far, the call by the president for these parties to sit down, the response we're getting so far?
Well, language is a very important part of politics. In fact, language is an act of politics. It's a performance of politics, which always leads to action. And so that's a critical part of the conversation about looking for a solution to the problem that we are talking about right now. And so one of the insights, or one of the tools that we use to decipher or to analyze the actions that are being taken to solve the problem, is the president's statement on what the problem is. Okay. And that's what he's done today. The question that you want to investigate is this: did the president show enough anger about the issue? Did he show enough commitment to solving the issue? Was he forceful enough in terms of his description, his definition of the problem, his description of it, and his prescription to what the problem is? Okay. So you come at it from that communicative or from that language angle if you're trying to look at a solution to it. And so if you analyze the theme, towards the last part, you realize that the president used language that was quite bipartisan. He said he wanted the two groups to meet, the two major political parties to meet. Yeah, because they were the major actors involved in this issue of vigilantism. He demonstrated his personal commitment to solving the problem by saying that if voluntary disbandment of the political military group or vigilante groups did not happen, then he was prepared to use legislation. Legislation to do that. Yeah. And so yes, the security expert, they study security and all of that. They can have their take on it as to whether they expect that the president will issue an executive instrument, whether he will go outright, to help, collaborate with Parliament to issue legislation, or whether the bipartisan approach of the two parties coming together is the best. Well, that's a security thing. But at least the president has demonstrated that this is what he has to do. I need to say that over here, the language that the president used made him sound statesman-like, because he used language that was unifying language that meant that he was willing to cross the aisle to meet with his political opponents to find a lasting solution to it. Yeah. And if you look at the statement he made at the end of it, you know, the quote, I think that was one of the best quotes that came out of the president's speech. And I'm going to read it, I mean, what he said, because I think it's very significant if you're having a discussion on this particular issue. And this is what the president said. He said, vigorous debate and the exchange of ideas should be the true basis of political dialogue and competition in our country, not activities of party vigilante groups. And I don't think he could have made a more clearer statement.
Beautiful statement,
yes.
but I've heard a lot of people say talk is cheap. So they believe that, yes, you can have a president who will come to parliament and make all the nice statements. But at the end of the day, has he made commitment to earlier things that he has said earlier that should give people the confidence that based on that, we believe that in this, he will show the same commitment to achieving what he said, not just say?
I think that would be comparing apples to oranges. I cannot extrapolate from the president's statement on, let's say, taxes or another thing, and then attach it to this or infer from that statement and then make a conclusive statement about the president's ability or effectiveness to solve this particular issue by linking another issue on, let's say, health or NHIS to that. What I can speak to is within the context of what he said.
Okay.
And the what he has said. And so the thing is that we can only wait. If over time there is no demonstration of effectively walking the talk, then I believe that we can always come back and come and say that, well, in 2019, during the State of the Nation address, this is what the president said about the militarization of political parties or vigilante groups. This is what has been done. This is what has not been done.
Okay.
Yeah, for now, we can only make a certain evaluation on the veracity or efficacy of his approach to doing that right now. And I believe that's what we're doing.
Okay, okay. So, Mr. Kamba, I'm going to come to you and finish with you so that I can continue the discussion with my two other.
I'm sure you heard him at the studio saying that you asked a brilliant question that talk is cheap. I mean, we had the assurance that the president had given earlier. Nice talk for something or two for something in it. Nice talk. He was still within the areas of Kumar Ashanti region when even they moved into Peter Church. So we have heard that. I mean, it's an issue of trust. We have heard the president making a lot of nice, beautiful speeches, and it ends nowhere. And so that is where we are now. That the beautiful talk, yes, we know. I mean, if we want to count them, we'll count a number of them. That these are things that he said. He made those promises. He told Otufo it's never going to happen. That was the first and the last, and nobody will hear about it. And this is not the first time I told the president is calling on us to disband vigilantism.
Mr. Kamba, you indicated that you have not yet engaged your party leadership, and that is a key part of this conversation. It's a key part of whether or not what the president has said will be a reality. When is that happening?
Reasonable. I'm sure that it's reasonable from what I'm saying, that this is not the first time the president has made those commitments.
No,
in the State of the Nation address, in respect of political vigilantism, that is never going to be a thing of the past. It came back. So this is not the first time the president is making that statement. Anyway.
Mr. Kamba, let's make progress.
If you go into the archive, you'll see it.
Let's make progress about when that meeting is going to happen. Are we going to see a formal statement come from the NDC about this and the way forward?
I'm sure we are
dealing
focused
with
on having our elections on Saturday, our flag bearership elections on Saturday. We will have a review on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll come out of it, and then the nation will get to know our position.
Mr. Kamba, thank you very much for your time. And the nation is expecting, of course, that the NDC will be able to sit with the NPP to solve this problem once and for all, because indeed it is eating us up as a country. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Joshua Kamba is national organizer for the NDC. Again, the hashtag is disband party militia now. Disband party militias now. And it is a campaign that we're embarking on vigorously. I still have my two guests with me. H.S. Ikanko is a communication specialist, and I still have a security analyst, Dr. security analyst Adam Bona. I do have some comments from WhatsApp messages received that I just want to run by you, and then we will continue with the discussion and wrap it up. And this one says, thanks very much to good afternoon, JoyNews and viewers. I think we are seriously joking as a country, more especially the police. Crime is crime, and the police is the internal state mandated agency, you want to say, to tackle this menace. But if they allow political dictation to override professionalism and control, then they should be blamed. And should not forget that confidence lost in the police, in the state police, gave rise to the FARC and the AUC and the parliamentary. Okay, so you go on and on about how this has affected other countries. Hopefully we will not get there. This one says, disbanding of vigilante groups is a call in the right direction. However, now that one political party has recruited its vigilante groups into the state security, if you were in the shoes of the other political divide, would you have the appetite to disband yours? This is coming from Mark in Kotokraba. Mr. Bona, I'm coming to you with this particular question so that we can wrap up the conversation on there. There seems to be the perception, a lot of people seem to have this perception that this is that there are people in national security from these groupings, especially in the NPP. Are these perceptions justified in any way?
Yes, to a very large extent, I mean, it's justified. And you did tell my brother who is gone off, Joseph Akamba, that, I mean, it's been a tradition where the political parties come to power and they rope in some of their members. Some of their members, and some of these people are, in fact, belong to one vigilante group or the other. But I think to be able to kill that mischief, to be able to, cut off the horns of those people we suspect have been planted at national security. First of all, let's go back to basics and look at the mandate, the core mandate of national security. The core mandate of national security is not for them to carry firearms and go intimidating and terrorizing people. And so these are Ghanaians. And so if they've been recruited there and they are qualified, why not? And so I would suggest that we can look at it and ask that the president should ask the national security to disband, get out of their institution. The firearms they are keeping, they should go back to, conducting intelligence investigations, picking information, evaluating them. Instead of carrying firearms and raiding homes and shooting at people. Once that is done, I believe that the NDC or the other political parties and Ghanaians would be assured that, now national security is back to a core mandate of doing what is being put together to do. Okay. But as it stands now, the NDC will be afraid that to say you have these guys there who have been armed. What happens? And so probably we as a nation should help these two political parties, pull them to a round table, get them to dialogue. I think we all have a role to play. Okay. If we allow them, it is going to be blame and counter blame. Okay. And so let's help them. End of the day, it is the unity in Ghana and the peace and the security in Ghana we want. And so for me, let's do that. Okay. And ask the president to disband, ask national security, they should they shouldn't be armed in terms of assault rifles and moving into people's homes. All those SWAT teams should be moved to the Ghana police. That way, we can check the Ghana police and know that this is the work of the Ghana police. But at the moment, we are confused. Who is national security and what are they doing? What is the Ghana police and what are they doing? Okay. And the BNI, what are they also doing? So
I have another message. Issues. Yeah, I have another message here, and here that here at JoyNews we've launched this campaign, hashtag the social media campaign, which of course we're putting on our traditional media as well, about disbanding these groups. Now I have a message here that says, Gifty, I'm of the view that we should all rise and back JoyNews and the president in the fight against the party militias. Our forefathers have fought enough for the peace we're enjoying today, so we need not trample upon it, all in the name of party politics. May God grant all of us the strength, power, and will to resist the oppressors. And there's another one, and well, I just lost it. But there's another one that's calling on youth groups, especially in the Zongo communities not to allow themselves to be used. That's a problem that you raised. Look, going forward, Mr. Bonner, I'd like to find out from you how we can consolidate this momentum, because a lot of people have said that if we miss it, we may not have another opportunity in a long time to deal with this particular problem that keeps snowballing. So how do people, what will be your advice to people as far as getting on board this campaign that JoyNews has started, and now that the president has spoken about it, how do we consolidate the momentum, and get some concrete solution, knowing that there's a commission as well that's sitting on a matter related to this?
By what you have done, as usual, you are always Joy Multimedia and your team. You are always out there championing some of these national issues that would help probably bring unity to all of us. And so, dialogue like this, the president spoke today. It's Thursday. Today is Thursday. And so let's give them. The president gave an ultimatum. He said maximum a week. And so let's say plus, minus. We give them by Wednesday. If they have not dialogued, if there is no roadmap into how they are going to disband, we ask the president that by Friday, the president should initiate, the policy mechanism, what he needs to do to begin to legislate. That way, I believe that all of us would have been supporting the president, because I believe that the president's statement today is what I was expecting. And some of us predicted this, that the president is likely to come in with some radical solutions to dealing with this issue. And so let's not underrate this president's statement. We voted for him. He's a commander-in-chief. And so for me, as for the two political parties, we can always forgive them when they are fighting amongst each other. But the rest of us would have to support the president in his cause to make sure that thuggery, violence, and the insecurity stops within the political parties. And so for me, we are going to support you. I mean, we are all there. If you need us, whichever role, I believe that we will all come on board to start certain dialogue.
A quick one, Mr. Bonner, before you go. The president, were you expecting him to say anything about the missing girls, the kidnappings that the trend of kidnappings that we've reported on, especially in Takrady? He didn't mention that.
No, he didn't. I have to be honest with you. I felt that should have been done. I think today, even the mothers went on demonstration, but because of the State of the Nation's address, it didn't come to frontline news. And so probably he should have done that, because this thing is new in terms of crime trends in Ghana. And so he should have done that and told us that you either would have to find them or something would give. But we didn't hear that. And so with JoyNews, I think you are doing well, keeping the momentum and getting all of us to come on board. I think that whilst we are asking the political parties to disband, courtesy the push from all of us, the president has spoken. If we leave the issue of kidnappings and we don't add it to disbanding the political parties, we might be left with these girls never finding them and never getting to the bottom of the story. We heard a CID officer was involved. As to what has happened to that issue, we don't know. And so I think that you guys are doing well. Whatever all of us have to do as a nation to support multimedia or JoyNews and your team to get this country together, bring crime rate down, we would all do it. And you are ahead of the security desk, and you are doing well. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonner.
This conversation is very important. Yes.
Right. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Adam Bonner is CEO of Security Warehouse. He's a security analyst, and he's been helping us, bring this conversation into perspective. There are no easy answers, never, but certainly there will be some kind of solution. The hashtags are two so far, just so you don't think that we've left off the girls. We're still searching for them. We're still piling the pressure on the police to get them. The hashtag is Bring Back Our Tardy Girls. This afternoon, the focus is the hashtag Disband Party Militias now. Okay, away from party militias, let me finish this conversation with you, Eche, about today, what happened in Parliament. People were quite surprised at how the parliamentarians behaved today. Usually, a State of the Nation, you would expect a lot of cheers from the majority, a lot of boos, sometimes, quite disruptive ones from the minority. We didn't see that happen. Did you notice that?
I think they reacted when they had to react. There were moments when the majority made statements to cheer something that the president had said, and there were times that the minority also responded. But of course, it was a bit different from the previous times when we had placards, when we had other forms of symbols that were brought to the floor of Parliament to either demonstrate their opposition to the president's statement or not. So, and I think we are maturing in our democracy, so people, I mean, it's a serious business, so people would not expect to see much of that.
Let's talk about the president's speech generally. I mean, this is really your area. What does, if you take a general overview of the president's statement, what does it communicate to you as a citizen?
Well, I think the president had a few goals. One of the goals was to make sure that he was addressing some of the most teething problems in the country, what he saw as the basic problems that the nation was facing. And he spent a lot of time talking about agriculture. He spent a lot of time talking about sanitation. I think those were the two things that received the biggest attention as far as the State of the Nation address is concerned. So that gives us an indication as to the president's emphasis or the president's priorities in terms of his government's policy direction.
Then I'll push education in there, don't you think?
Yes,
he did speak a lot about education.
Yeah, he did speak a lot about education, but he didn't talk about double track. Yes, and I think when it comes to education, that is what people want to hear, right? So, so that was missing from it. But he sounded very passionate when he was talking about our change in attitudes towards sanitation. He sounded very passionate when he was talking about our commitment to values and behaviors that will either support the sanitation interventions in the country or not in the diaspora. And he made statements saying that we might have all the natural resources, but our best currency as a nation is the people and the attitudes that we had. And he even used the local language, tree, and then I think yes, to emphasize. And when the president does that, it means that that is something that he's very committed to. That is something that is very close to his heart.
Or better still, it's an overwhelming problem.
Or better,
because it is
sometimes really. It might also show that it is a teething problem.
So you have to go the extra mile to actually indicate how extremely disappointed you are about it, or how much of a toll it's taking on you.
Yes. So those are signs, right? Those are signs that gives you a certain idea of the sort of things that keeps the president awake at night. Because sanitation featured last year in the State of the Nation address, and it's got a substantial amount of time in his presentation.
Would you not say it's because he gave himself an ambitious deadline and an ambitious target, I should say. So when he says that he wants to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa.
Well, I mean, yes, that's a very ambitious, promise.
So if you have made such an ambitious promise and you have to deliver a report, then you are left with nothing but to be passionate.
Right, because the first time he spoke, he said he would do that at the end of his 4-year term. And I think later on he said at the end of his term. So I think that's what generated the laughter. And then he used his hand to indicate that not this, his 2 terms, right? So I think that was an admission that...
That's a serious political communication there.
Yes. So that happened. But you see, at the end of the day, these sort of speeches, there are a lot of things, purposes to them. They help the government to remain accountable or responsive to the needs of the people in the country. They also help us to get an idea of what the government's priorities are, and so I think it's left with Ghanaians to decide if the speech gave them any hope.
Right.
If the speech addressed some of the realistic problems, the money in their pocket, the energy crisis, the water situations or problems that we are facing, whether this really spoke to them and spoke to their sufferings, the economic hardships that they were concerned about, or it was just another regurgitation of political statements, programs, or ideas. So I think that is really the function of a speech like this.
Okay.
And if the president failed to mention certain things, for instance, yes, security is a problem, but it is not only about vigilantism. It is also about the kidnappings. It is also about the so-called contract killings. And these are things that the president did not speak to. There were people who were also expecting him to talk about the exchange rate and talk about how this has a direct effect on the economy, on prices of goods and the money in their pocket. So these were some of the things that were missing from it. There were a couple of things from last year too that he talked about that he did not account for this year. Yes, he said he was going to build, bring about drones for the police service. We know about drones for health, but what about the police service? You know, so there were some things that he did not account for last year. And I believe that in trying to assess the president's performance, as far as the State of the Nation address is concerned, these are some of the things that we need to be looking at. Okay. Well, actually, I understand that you were doing some analysis, so I believe that in the subsequently you come out with your you know your own assessment of what the statement the State of the Nation address. But H.S. Sikanko, Dr. H.S. Sikanko is a communications specialist, and he's the author of the Afrocentric Obama Lessons on Political Campaigning. Eche, thank you so much for coming. And we'll be looking forward to the report on the State of the Nation address. But Eche did speak about Ghanaians, that he said that this statement is up to the Ghanaians to, you know, decide whether or not this statement addresses their issues. This statement addresses the concerns that they have.